Just 2 words froze a nation: sit down, boy. What followed wasn't politics, it was a moment of truth so powerful that it stopped millions in their tracks. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments. Because this isn't just a story for America, it's for anyone who has ever been silenced and still chose to rise. It started on a quiet Tuesday night in Manhattan. The cameras were rolling, and millions tuned in, expecting the usual political debates and dramatic sound bites. But instead, they witnessed something raw, something real. Sitting in the guest chair was Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young revolutionary leader from Burkina Faso. He wasn't there to provoke. He came only to speak about African independence and the West's involvement in the region. Opposite him sat Karoline Leavitt, known for her sharp tongue and sharper comebacks. The producers had expected a calm discussion. But sometimes, live television has its own plans. About 20 minutes in, Captain Traoré calmly laid out his points, respectful, thoughtful, factual. Then, without warning, Karoline leaned forward, pointed at him, and with all the arrogance in the world, uttered the 2 words that would haunt her: sit down, boy. The studio went dead silent. Viewers at home gasped. Social media exploded. But instead of reacting with rage, Captain Traoré did something far more powerful. He stood, not in protest, but in dignity. He walked to the edge of the stage, looked out at the audience, and spoke gently. I come from a place where boys must become men before they ever learn to dream. Call me boy if you wish. But where I come from, boys carry entire nations on their backs. They fight so others don't starve. They lead because no one else will. Karoline's confident smirk began to fade. This wasn't a man she could belittle, this was someone who had survived things she could never comprehend. Captain Traoré continued, I buried my father under open sky, no cameras, no headlines. Just dirt, silence, and my mother's grief. One woman in the audience began to cry. This wasn't a political argument anymore. This was pain, delivered without filter, lived to millions. My father was killed in a coup fueled by outside powers. So when you say sit down, boy, do you mean the boy who watched his village burn? The boy who studied by candlelight because the lights never came back after colonialism left? A decorated U.S. veteran quietly placed his hand over his heart. He understood what it meant to sacrifice. Captain Traoré's voice softened but held its strength. You don't have to like me. But you will not erase me. A single clap rang out. Then another. Soon, the entire studio was applauding, not out of pity, but out of deep respect. You see a soldier, he said, but I was raised by a woman who walked miles to sell firewood. She wore worn-out sandals so I could go to school. She skipped meals so I wouldn't go hungry. The camera cut to Karoline. Her smirk was gone. My mother never told me to sit down. She told me to stand, even when it hurt. A young girl whispered to her father, he sounds like you, Daddy. Grown men wiped tears from their faces. A U.S. Army colonel stood up and said, he's right. I served in Liberia. I know what boys like him endure. Calling him a boy isn't political debate, it's humiliation. The colonel walked over, extended his hand, and said, thank you, not just for defending your people, but for reminding us what real leadership looks like. Their handshake brought thunderous applause. Karoline wasn't done embarrassing herself. Red-faced, she snapped, are we seriously pretending he's some saint? Captain Traoré replied with grace, this isn't about sainthood. It's about humanity. Desperate, she shouted, what's next? Do we apologize for being Americans? A young black student stood up, voice trembling, no. You apologize for being cruel. Captain Traoré reached into his jacket and pulled out a carefully folded letter. My younger brother wrote this 2 days before he was killed during a food protest. He unfolded it and read aloud, Big brother, if I die, promise me they'll remember why. So no, I won't sit down. I carry the memories of those who were forced to kneel. Karoline had no response. Her hands trembled beneath the table. Then, a black woman in the audience stood slowly, my son served in Afghanistan. He came home in a coffin. They called him boy too, even in uniform. Her voice cracked. When you spoke, it felt like my son stood up again. The ovation was deafening. Karoline muttered, "This is just emotional theater." The host took off his earpiece and replied, "The cameras are rolling. You created this moment. You just didn't expect it to speak back." She stormed off the set. No boos. No cheers. Just silence. And one whisper, she couldn't handle the truth. In the final segment, a little girl from a Chicago hospital appeared on screen, waving a hand-drawn American flag. "Hi, Captain. You told me I was brave. But tonight, you were the bravest." Captain Traoré held back tears. "You give me strength," he said. "You are the future I fight for." She smiled proudly. "Next time someone says sit down, boy, I'll tell them to stand up, like Captain Traoré." The video went viral overnight. Families paused dinners. Classrooms huddled around phones. The world stopped to watch. A week later, Karoline returned to the studio alone. She left a handwritten letter for Captain Traoré. "I said sit down, boy. But you stood taller than any man I've known. I was wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope that my daughter grows up learning from your strength. Not my ignorance." Captain Traoré read it aloud and said, "We don't heal through silence. We heal through courage." And today, she showed some. Now, a single chair sits in the center of that studio. Empty. Unlabeled. Unexplained. But everyone knows what it means.